Israel has been a state for 75 years. We were all privileged that the Congress invited President Isaac Herzog to speak before a joint session. And the question is, do we still need to observe Tisha B'Av? Is the renewal, the return to Zion complete, or do we have more work to do? My answer is that we have some more work to do, and therefore we should continue to observe the fast. Nostalgia is a natural feeling. There are many cycles in the universe. We revolve around the sun, we rotate on our axis. There's the life cycle, and so on. And so it makes sense to want to yearn to return. And also when we face challenges, we want the feeling of those challenges to go away. Can't we go back to the past where we didn't have the challenges? And of course, as we all age, as is natural, we yearn for youth again. And so therefore it makes sense, and it's beautiful that the book of Eicha, of Lamentations, that we recite on Tisha B'Av evening ends with the phrase, Chadesh Yameinu Kikedem. Renew our days as in days of old. But if you really think about it, when on the timeline should we be returning to? Just briefly, a thought experiment. If we go back to the time of the Second Temple, to when Herod expanded the temple court beautifully, are the Romans going to return too? How about the time of Maccabees, when we really had Jewish sovereignty? Well, there was quite a bit of Jewish infighting during that time, with some Jews wanting to be more Hellenized than others. So how do we resolve those arguments in the time of Maccabees? Go back to the first temple when the two kingdoms of Israel and Judea were separate, or that one little time when Solomon had them all united, but he had too many wives to count. Which time period are we going back to? When we see that our yearning of nostalgia requires us to take what is good and actually discard what was bad about each time period. So therefore, our yearning of returning needs to be more spiral-like. We can actually add the dimension of time and say, if we're to return to this place, return to these circumstances, things will be different because time is obviously different. It is a different time. So in this month of discussion about Israel's first 75 years and God willing next 75 years, we can say with confidence that we as Jews have returned to the land. We have really made many of our dreams of renewal fulfilled, many of them. We have spiraled back. It is not the same as it was in the past. And we actually live that spiral. When you walk around the country, you have modern life with all of the comforts and, yes, the questions and challenges of 2023. And then you just dig a little deeper and you find the deep history, whether it be from the Middle Ages, the Byzantine era, all the way down to the biblical era. We are living 3,000 years of history on top of the modern world. And we have transformed in many ways what it means to be a Jew in just the matter of 75 years. So do we need to stop mourning? For 2,000 years, we have said next year in Jerusalem, we are going to return. We have broken the glass at weddings. We have offered comfort to mourners as mourners of Zion in Jerusalem. Do we need to still have a day of mourning and remembrance? The answer for me is yes, because it's not complete. Now, yes, if you go through the 75-year history and, we get to 1967, Many of you were alive. I was not. There was a euphoria. Just a few short weeks before Tisha B'Av in 67, there was the reunification of Jerusalem. Hakotel biyadenu. Whenever I hear that recording, I get goosebumps. And it must have been, and the accounts are, it was hard to fast in that 1967 moment. Some even didn't. Some said, we just can't. We're going to go back to our celebrations because it feels like we have completely returned. But we know history. Pretty shortly afterwards, the Yom Kippur War and everything afterwards, there is still more pain, more challenges. We are not yet Chadesh Yameinu. We have not been renewed to a point where we have Shleimut, wholeness. Because what really are we mourning on Tisha B'Av? All the different occurrences where we were absent from God, where God pulled God's face from us, from the destruction of the temples, when literally the place that we would go to feel God's presence. Yes, I know God is everywhere, but we need to be prepared to feel God's presence. And yes, to even go up to the Shoah. How could this happen? The idea of God hester panim. Somehow God's face was hidden from us, from this world, that allowed other human beings to not see the divine in each other. And so, yes, what does it mean to return to Zion and Jerusalem? It means to return back to God. Because what is the other part of that verse that we say? Hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva chadesh yameinu kegedem. God, return to us, and we will return to you. And only then can our days be renewed of old. And so I do encourage each and every one of us, as you are able, to join us this Wednesday evening as well as Thursday morning, to fast as you are able. I'm not going to sort of tell you how you have to do it, but I want everyone to acknowledge this day, acknowledge that our connection to God is still not yet complete. We still have more work to do. And yes, Israel's existence is not a guarantee. We need to remember that we can lose it. We can lose one temple, we can lose two temples. And actually, as Golda Meir called it, we have a third temple now. And we, God forbid, can lose that if we don't support her. So I encourage you all to come. And really, next year, may we be fully fulfilled and fully full shlamut, that we do not have to fast on Tisha B'Av. Shabbat Shalom.